the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Time to talk about players that are going to either bounce back or fall back. That's going to be one of the question marks as the 49ers embark on a 2025 season where they're counting on a lot of players to either bounce back or players to step up. And of course, I did a video talking about players that need to step up this season for the San Francisco 49ers to have success, because you are going to be integrating a lot of rookies. You're going to be integrating a lot of free agents, but it all hinges on the San Francisco 49ers getting certain players to bounce back. And I think that there is a certain level of degree of hopefulness and projection when talking about this. But I want to go through these players and I want to talk about the guys that need to bounce back for the 49ers to have success. Because the truth is, that's what it's going to take if the 49ers want to have a winning season. If they want to come back to being that football team. They have let players leave in free agency. They traded away Deebo Samuel. They traded away Jordan Mason. They have completely redone this 49ers defensive line, letting go of Leonard Floyd and Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave. They've let go of Talanoa Hufanga and Drake Greenlaw and Charvarius Ward. These were staples to the 49ers defense. They've let go staples to the 49ers offense as well. Aaron Banks, left guard, on his way out. So 49ers continue to try to rebuild this football team. Some of it is just natural. You have to rebuild and re-energize your football team with young players as you look to stay under the salary cap, but also pivot from one group to the next. This is something that all teams do if they want sustained success. You have to be able to translate from one team to the next. What I'm talking about is you have different eras of football teams. John Lynch eloquently said it earlier on in the offseason. You have players that are one contract, two contract, forever 49ers. The 49ers have re-upped two guys who are forever 49ers, Fred Warner and George Kittle. They had to let go of guys who were two contract guys like Drake Greenlaw. They had to make sure they moved on from one contract guys like Jordan Mason or Aaron Banks, right? Deebo, another two contract guy that they had to move on from. 49ers are having to determine who these players are. But with that being said, you also need guys who didn't play well last year for whatever reason to step up. So I want to talk about those players and if they can bounce back. Are all these guys bounce back players? Or are there going to be some of those guys that are just going to fall back? They're going to fall into the wasteland of irrelevant. And that's one of the question marks the 49ers have this season. So this is going to be a fun episode. I'm really looking forward to talking about these guys because there's key 49ers that need to bounce back if they're going to be a successful football team in 2025. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Belief Network. That's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen audio. And if you are going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into NBA and NHL playoffs. And BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. So it wasn't really hard to find players that needed to bounce back. All you had to do was start at the top with some of the 49ers' key contributors in 2024 and realize that they need to bounce back. Now, some of the guys that left for whatever reason, would have been top candidates for bounce back players, right? Drake Greenlaw was dealing with the injury. He would have been a prime prospect to bounce back. Charvarius Ward, same thing. Inconsistency last year with play, a lot of that because of off the field issues, and none that are his fault, and all of them understandable. Who can even possibly know what he was going through? That is just a tremendous thing to overcome. But it still meant that there were some inconsistencies with play. Same thing with Talanoa Hufanga. He would have been a bounce back contender. Aaron Banks wasn't that great last year. He would have been a bounce back contender. So it's interesting that when you start thinking about it in those dynamics, the 49ers let go a lot of players that would have been bounce back guys. They were guys who really didn't have a great season last year. I mean, one of the guys who left that did was Jalen Moore. In place of Trent Williams, he did a really great job and got $15 million per season on the open market. But when you think about it that way, it makes a lot of sense. Now, how much of them needing to bounce back had to do with injury or had to do with coaching staff or playing out of position? Because I think all those factors determine into these guys and where they're going to be at bouncing back. You know, for some, it could have been Nick Sorensen that made them struggle, or Brian Schneider, or it could have been injury. And that's where I'm going to start. It's with Trent Williams. Trent Williams just dealt with a string of injuries last year, and it was a late start to get into training camp. He had the contract dispute. How much of that hinged on Brandon Ayuk's contract coming down first before the Trent Williams contract was done? That I don't know. I'm not privy to that information. I don't know if we'll ever be privy to that information. But what we do know is Trent Williams wasn't as effective during his stint in the 2024 season. Before the injury ever happened, Trent Williams was having moments where he didn't look like Trent Williams. He didn't look like the best offensive tackle in the NFL. He looked like he was struggling a little bit. There were just opportunities that he normally would shut guys down. They were kind of having their way with him at times. So Trent Williams needs to bounce back in a huge way in 2025. But the question is, will Trent Williams bounce back, or has Father Time finally caught up with Trent and now he's going to fall back? Well, I do believe that Trent Williams is going to bounce back. I don't know if it's going to be the 2022 Trent Williams or the 2021 Trent Williams that was all pro, all world, but I do know this. He's going to be better in 2025 than he was in the games that he played in 2024. And I think that he's going to be more available. I think that this was a good opportunity for Trent Williams to be able to get right physically. Deep runs in the playoffs in 2021, 2022, 2023 definitely took a toll on the San Francisco 49ers. And for an elder statesman like Trent Williams, who's getting up into his late 30s, it's more difficult to get back in the swing and get your body right after the season. Now, we know Trent Williams takes a long time to get himself right and then go out there and work. He takes time off. He takes care of his body. He does a good job. But last year with him missing training camp, I think that did have a profound nature on why he played the way he played. But I expect Trent Williams to come out and play a Pro Bowl caliber level this year and probably all pro caliber level. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a first team all pro. I don't know that for sure. But I think that Trent Williams knows that his play needs to improve. And Trent Williams is a guy that's motivated by being one of the best in the world at all times. So I fully expect him to bounce back. I fully expect him to be way better than 2024. And I think he'll probably be close to that 2023 range, which he had a really good season. So Trent Williams will not just bounce back, but he will be in contention for the protector or guardian of the year in the NFL when it comes to NFL honors. That's how good Trent Williams is. That's how good the 49ers are going to have him be. Now, the question mark for the 49ers and Trent Williams is, how many games is he going to play this year? It seems like it's inevitable that Trent Williams misses at least 2 games every season. It's kind of the George Kittle thing. Same thing happens. If Trent Williams can play 14 or 15 games this year, the San Francisco 49ers will feel very comfortable with how they're getting production out of the left tackle. If not, Andre Dillard, you going to be ready? Nicholas Petit-Frere, are you going to be ready? I think there's some question marks when it comes to depth behind Trent Williams. They need him to bounce back. I think he does bounce back. in 2025. Next up is going to be Christian McCaffrey. And the same thing, it's injury. And it was the Achilles tendonitis early on that robbed him of the entire training camp. When he came back, he just didn't look right. He didn't have the same speed. He didn't have the same elusiveness, the same ability to break tackles. He was missing explosiveness in all aspects, whether that was running routes or that was running the football. And he was still being effective. You look at the Buffalo game, he was very highly effective, but it wasn't the Christian McCaffrey where we're used to, where in 2022 and 2023, McCaffrey was basically unstoppable. He made this 49ers red zone offense very difficult to stop. And so the 49ers need a Christian McCaffrey who's more healthy. Now, I think it's going to be tough because he's coming off in 2023, not 24, but 23, maybe his best season in the history of his career. So he was hitting a peak there and then dealt with injuries. Now, all the reports are Christian McCaffrey is 100%. There's no setbacks. There's no limitations. He's ready to go full speed ahead. And we know that he worked on changing his offseason workouts to make sure he was going to be able to be effective this year. So I do believe Christian McCaffrey is going to bounce back. But I will say this. I don't know if we're ever going to see peak 2023 Christian McCaffrey again. You don't have to see him for him to be very, very good in the NFL and very good for the 49ers. I think it will be a step back from 2023. I still think he's going to be highly effective. I still think he's going to be a matchup problem for most defenses. But I don't know if he'll ever recapture what he was in 2023, where he was by far the best offensive player in the entire league. And he was just all over the place, making every single play, the most dynamic red zone force in the NFL. He took the 49ers red zone from being pretty good in 2022 to being absolutely elite, best in the NFL, over a 68% touchdown percentage. That's just crazy. So I expect Christian McCaffrey to be more healthy. I expect him to be playing at a high level, probably just not as high of a level as 2023. And I hope I'm wrong. In fact, I hope 2025 ends up being the greatest season he ever had. If that's the case, there's a good chance the 49ers are holding up the Lombardi trophy at the end of the year. That's the kind of effect that Christian McCaffrey has on a team. But that's kind of where my optimism is for him, is kind of where I was talking about. So I do expect him to bounce back, though. I don't think that this is the end of Christian McCaffrey's career. I don't think he's washed or he's done because of these injuries. I think he is going to bounce back. Number 3, Brock Purdy. And yes, Brock Purdy just got paid a whole lot of money to be the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Well deserved. And he's getting paid like a top 10 quarterback. And I think some people would question whether Brock Purdy played at that high of a level last year. Now, I think he had a really good season, even though he had 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. It wasn't his best numbers-wise. I thought that he went out and competed every single day, kept the 49ers in a lot of games where talent-wise they probably shouldn't have been in those games after losing players like McCaffrey, having guys like Debo miss time, losing Brandon Ayuk for the season, Trent Williams being out for the year, no Javon Hargrave, Charvarius Ward in and out of the lineup. You name it, it was happening for the San Francisco 49ers last year. They were just ravaged by injuries and ravaged by circumstance. But Brock Purdy was the consistent amongst the 49ers offense. When everything else failed, when guys missed games, whether that was Kittle or that was Debo or Brandon Ayuk or Christian McCaffrey or Aaron Banks or whoever it was on the offensive line, Brock Purdy was the constant. And he played as well as he possibly could in that scenario. I think that there were probably times he wished he would have played better, but I think that he, considering the circumstances and the tools that he had to deal with, played pretty well. So when we talk about 2023, it's the same thing, the effect of the Christian McCaffrey. You also had an effect on Brock Purdy. In 2023, Brock Purdy was a MVP caliber player. In 2024, he wasn't. Circumstance played into that. Some of that was the playmakers around him were a little deficient. Some of it was he was a little bit more inconsistent than he had been in the past. But I think Brock Purdy is prone and set up for a 2025 resurgence. I think he's going to bounce back. And this is great news. I'm talking about the top 3, are 3 of the top pillars for the 49ers in this entire team. And I'm talking about them bouncing back. And they need it. They have to have it. And with Brock Purdy, you might say he doesn't have to bounce that far. But if he can get closer to that 2023 realm, throw for over 4,000 yards, somewhere in there, get up there over 30 touchdowns and keep it a 2-to-1 ratio with touchdowns to interceptions, 30 touchdowns, about 10 to 12 interceptions. I think the 49ers would feel really good about their quarterback situation. But I think Brock Purdy is prone for that. He's set up. He's ready. He's been working hard. There's no distraction with the contract. No contract distractions this year. It got Trent last year. It got Brandon Ayuk. It's not getting George Kittle or Brock Purdy or Fred Warner. They are all in there. They're ready to roll. And so I think this is a great opportunity for Brock Purdy to bounce back. I think he's going to. I do believe he's going to have over 30 touchdowns this season. I do believe that he's going to have a better than 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And I think he's going to lead the 49ers to a lot of wins. And people are going to talk about him being a top 10 quarterback again. I think the national media is going to have to swallow their pride and realize it doesn't matter where Brock Purdy was drafted. It only matters that Brock Purdy's one of those guys that's getting it done. So I do think he's going to have a bounce back season. Now, one guy that's not going to have a bounce back season, and I had him on my list, and then yesterday he got waived, and that's Mitch Wishnowsky. I thought it was important for the 49ers punter to have a bounce back season. I had talked about this on my episode about special teams, was if they felt that Mitch Wishnowsky wasn't healthy, they were going to have to go in and bring a veteran player in. And I thought that they felt comfortable with Wishnowsky because they hadn't. Well, in comes Thomas Morstead, and out goes Mitch Wishnowsky. So Wishnowsky will not be having a bounce back season for the San Francisco 49ers. Morstead is going to take his place, and we'll see what happens there. Hopefully we get a bounce back from the position, though, and the punting position elevates its game, and the 49ers get better ratio there. Morstead at one point in his career averaged 51 yards per punt. That would be 6 yards more than what we got last year out of Mitch Wishnowsky. Wishing Wishnowsky nothing but the best. Now let's get to some guys that are going to be a little bit more controversial. We talked about the guys that were towards the top of the 49ers when it comes to bouncing back, and I think we believe they all will. Now it gets complicated because we're going to talk about the safety position, and I'm going to talk about Ji'Yair Brown, and he was a guy that I listed on the players that must step up category. And there was a lot of people that pushed back and said, you know what, Ji'Yair's just not that good. And I think it depends on how you look at Ji'Yair Brown. If you look at what he did in 2023 under Coach Steve Wilks as a foundation for what he could be in the future, you were optimistic. You've seen some things that you liked. He was a guy that would fly up and hit people and make plays in the run game. He was very aggressive when it came to stopping the run or being aggressive and making tackles. So we love that about him. He was also making some plays when it came to turnovers. Got a big interception in the Super Bowl. So you were seeing some things that you liked, and it felt like, hey, we're building the foundation for Ji'Yair Brown to be able to grow into a very solid defensive back in the secondary. And you could see it, the way the media was approaching him, and he was going on radio shows, and they were talking to him, and he was getting a little bit more leeway when it came to the things that he was going to be doing on the field. He was the veteran in the room because Hufanga was out and because Malik Mustafa was young. And you could see they were putting more on this guy's plate for him to be able to handle, and they felt like this was the next big-time player for the 49ers. But in comes Nick Sorensen, and in comes some struggles for Ji'Yair Brown. Now, one of the things that we're going to have to figure out was how much was scheme and Sorensen and how much was Ji'Yair Brown. Because we all know that if you take a player and you play him out of position, and you put him in positions that don't, kind of elevate his strengths, he's going to have some struggles. So I do believe there is an element to that in Ji'Yair Brown. I think that Steve Wilks used Ji'Yair Brown a lot better than what you got from Nick Sorensen. But I don't believe that it's all on Nick Sorensen. I do believe some of it is on Ji'Yair Brown. Nick Sorensen's not the reason why Ji'Yair Brown struggled to make tackles. Some of it was his angles. Some of it was the way he came up and didn't break down. He came in with reckless abandon, and that would allow other players to be able to make him miss. He also would put his head down, his eyes down when he went to make tackles. He wasn't doing the things you need to do consistently, technique-wise. Now, is he going to bounce back? The 49ers have ensured that if he doesn't, they've got talented players behind him. We know Malik Mustafa is going to be out for the first part of the year, but you have Jason Pinnock, you have Richie Grant, you went out and you drafted Marquis Siegel, George Odom is still in the building. You've got some guys that you feel comfortable with stepping into Ji'Yair Brown's place if he's not playing up to snuff. But I think Ji'Yair Brown knows that as well. He sees the writing on the wall that if I don't get this together this year, I might not be a starting safety in the NFL anytime soon. So I think that this is a small bounce. I don't think he's going to fall back because I don't know how much you can fall back from last year. This is one of the things that I think helps Ji'Yair Brown is we saw him hit the basement last year. We saw him hit the ground floor, and now he's just got to bounce back up. And I think that there's some of the attention to detail that was lost last year that's not going to be lost this year. Not going to be allowed to be lost. A guy like Robert Saleh doesn't allow you to miss little details, to come in with your head down when making tackles, to take bad angles. They brought in another secondary coach in Ray Brown, and Coach Brown's going to be working on it as well. They are going to make sure that Ji'Yair Brown executes at the highest level. So I think Ji'Yair Brown is going to be better than 2024. Is he ever going to reach the 2023 levels that we liked that he was building upon? I think that is the bigger question. So I do believe there's going to be a small bounce for Ji'Yair Brown. I think one thing that he's going to really have success with is the fact that he's going to have veterans now with him, whether that's Richie Grant, whether that's Jason Pinnock, who's played for Robert Saleh in this system before in New York, or that is Malik Mustafa being in year 2. Now Ji'Yair Brown is not going to be the veteran in the room of just a bunch of young dudes with Hufanga being out. Now all these guys are going to be able to help. And we know Hufanga's moved on to Denver. So small bounce for Ji'Yair Brown. I just don't think you can fall back when you're in that situation. Yetur Gross-Matos. And a lot of people don't know how to react with Yetur Gross-Matos because they brought him in with a lot of fanfare. And we were very optimistic about him taking over the Charles Omenihu role. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch loved the fact he could rush from the inside. That's what he was going to do in Carolina. That's where he played the best. He was too quick for interior offensive linemen, but had enough power to be able to hang with them too. Then he gets hurt, and he came back too early from the injury, never looked right. By the time we got to the end of the year, he had some plays, but there were also some bad things that happened. Last year, he had the mistakes against Geno Smith, and the Seattle Seahawks won a game, and that's getting put firmly on Yetur Gross-Matos. But I don't think Yetur Gross-Matos is the guy we saw last year. I do think that there are some things, some injuries that played in to his abilities out on the field, and I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. I think he's going to bounce back to more of what we saw from Carolina, and I think he's going to have opportunities to rush from the inside. Him and Mikael Williams, some of the things they're going to be able to do with stunts are going to put some real pressure on interior offensive linemen and offensive tackles to communicate with some of the stunts they're going to be able to do. I think that he's now understands his system, what Coach Chris Kacerek is expecting of him, and I think we're going to get a nice hard edge set on first and second down, pass rush on the outside when he's asked to, but also pass rush from the inside. He had 4 sacks last season. I expect that to go up. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I think that he's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. Part of the reason is I know Robert Saleh knows how to use these guys that start on the outside and move in. He knows how to use the 6'5", 265-pound defensive ends who are hyper athletic. Gross-Matos has some pretty good pass rush moves. I think this is a recipe for a bounce back in a big way. So I'm going to go on a limb right now, and I don't want to put projections out there or predictions, but I think he's going to set a career high in sacks this season as long as he doesn't get hurt. And that's not asking a lot. He had 4.5 sacks in Carolina, but I think it's going to go over 5 this year. I think he's going to be able to produce. So I'm a definite bounce back guy for Yetur Gross-Matos, and I think that'll be a great rotation with Nick Bosa and Gross-Matos and Mikael Williams. And then the question mark is it Robert Beal? Is it Sam Okuwanu? Is it a combination of both? Do they go out in free agency and grab somebody who can be more of a defined pass rusher? Because boy, would that be fun if you got a Bosa, Gross Matos, Mikael Williams, and whether that's Alfred Collins who can push the pocket or Sam Okawanu or somebody else, I think that could be a lot of fun. So I think Gross Matos bounced back. This one is probably the one that I think is going to be the most interesting to see how people react, is Jordan Elliott. And Jordan Elliott did not have his best season last year for the 49ers. Definitely didn't. And part of the reason he didn't have the best season were teams were just duo blocking the heck out of the 49ers. And Jordan Elliott played some one tech, he played some three tech, he was moved around. And there is a big difference between playing one tech and three tech and how offenses play against you. Number one, your one tech guy has to hold up against more double teams. Your three tech guys on the backside of the play most of the time. And so they're trapping him, they're blocking him one-on-one. It's different. I think that Jordan Elliott having big bodies who are really good at stopping the run next to him is going to benefit him greatly. When he played in Cleveland, he played in the wide nine system. He was very effective against the run when he played for Coach Schwartz in Cleveland. Last year, that did not happen. Part of the reason was the 49ers defensive line didn't have the guys up front. I think that Jordan Elliott can play better than he did last season. Now, I'm not telling you that Jordan Elliott is a starter in the NFL, because I think that he did okay in Cleveland. I think the 49ers need an improvement at the position, so don't get me wrong. But I think he's better than what we saw last year. And, people are not happy with Jordan Elliott's play last year, and I would agree with them. I don't think that he played at the highest level. And I don't know if we're going to get a full bounce back to what he did with the Cleveland Browns, but I think we're going to get an elevated play, because I think that the Robert Saleh understands who Jordan Elliott is, what his skill set is, what his strengths are. And I think that that's going to benefit him, number one. But also I think number two is Alfred Collins and CJ West eating up blockers, and even Evan Anderson eating up blockers opposite of him when he's playing three tech. And I think a move to three tech would be a huge advantage for the 49ers and how they play Jordan Elliott, is I think he would hold up better there. Minus duo blocks where they just try to get a vertical push, he'll see way less double teams, which would benefit him greatly because he didn't anchor well last year. So Ji'Yair Brown, a little small bounce because of how well or how bad he played last year. And I'm going the same thing with Jordan Elliott, a small bounce. I think the scheme, the way he's used, the players next to him, Mikael Williams playing on the outside, setting a firm edge, I think all those things play into it. So a small bounce for him. I don't think he's fallen back. I don't know if you could fall back any further. If he falls back any further, he's going to fall right off of this team. And the 49ers are going to be looking for somebody else to step in that role. Number 7, Spencer Burford. And I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say there's a huge bounce back. And that might shock you. But I said this on the Red and Bold show the other day, and I'm going to kind of put this out there and continue with it. Spencer Burford might fail me completely. But I have a feeling that Spencer Burford is going to end up winning the left guard position. And I know that right now the presumed starter is Ben Barch, and Ben Barch played really well, and Chris Forster likes him. But Spencer Burford has the most talent of those guys. And I think that he's had a full year now to adjust to left guard. And I think that with the opportunity, he can go out there and get this position. He just needs to be more consistent. And so I do think we're going to get a huge bounce back. Whether he starts in place of Ben Barch like I think he's going to, or he is a solid backup that plays left and right guard, I think the 49ers are going to feel confident with Spencer Burford's depth on this football team. No longer is he going to have those mental mistakes where he doesn't know who to pick up. I think this guy is going to be well-versed in this offense, understand what his role is playing within this offense, and I think he's going to do a very good job. I think we're going to see more consistency when it comes to pass protection. I think we're going to see even more plays where he gets the proper angles and plays well in the block and when it comes to run blocking. But that's part of the reason that I think Spencer Burford ends up getting this job. I think he's going to outrun block Nick Zakelj and Ben Barch. I think that Burford was better at it when he played right guard, and I think he'll be better at it when he plays left guard. And so I think Burford's going to end up doing that a little bit better. The question is going to be, is Ben Barch and Nick Zakelj going to be a better pass blocker than Burford? Burford has to make it close. We know Zakelj is a better pass blocker than both of those guys. but I think Burford can make it close. So I'm going big bounce back year for Spencer Burford. I think at worst, he's a consistent backup that whether Dominic Pony comes out or Ben Barch or whoever, he does a great job. I think the best circumstance, and this is why I'm going huge bounce back, is I think he bounces back to be a better player than we've seen for the 49ers. I think he plays better than his rookie season, and I think that that's where we get the best play for Spencer Burford. So I'm going huge bounce back. And then my last one is Jake Moody. And honestly, I don't know what we're going to get from Jake Moody. Jake Moody has changed his way of kicking. He's no longer going to be a 3-step and then strike the football. He's going to be a 2-step. Talked about the mental makeup and some of the struggles that were there. I have a lot of confidence in Brant Boyer to be a guy that can fix his special teams, but I don't know if anyone can fix Jake Moody. I don't know if this is going to be a bounce back. All I know is it got really bad last year, and if he falls back any further, he's going to be off this team, and the 49ers are going to be probably signing another kicker. I know they signed a veteran kicker, but I don't think that they are sold on that veteran kicker. I think they could end up making a different move. So this is probably the one that I have the least confidence in a bounce back. And that's disappointing. I really wanted Jake Moody to be a good kicker for the 49ers, so we don't have to worry about it. We had Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould was as good as gold. He barely missed. He was always striking the ball consistently. And we thought we were getting the next Robbie Gould with a stronger leg in Jake Moody. And it hasn't worked out. I would say right now, I couldn't say with confidence he's going to bounce back. I think right now it's more likely he falls back than he bounces back. And that's disappointing to say. And I hope I'm proved wrong. I hope Jake Moody goes out there and absolutely just dominates and strikes the ball consistently and absolutely hits every single field goal that he's asked to make during training camp, preseason, and he just goes and wins this job. It goes in the regular season and just steamrolls and becomes one of the best kickers in the NFL. But there's no confidence for me that that's going to happen. We're going to have to see it on the field. And I don't think the things that he said in the media about his mindset last year make me feel confident in it. So I have faith in Ben Barch. In Brant Boyer. I have faith in the way he's doing special teams. I've seen that, hey, Wisnowski, moved on from him, went to Thomas Morstead. But Jake Moody, will they pull the trigger? Potentially. I think it's interesting. So you guys can let me know if you think Jake Moody's going to bounce back or fall back. And let me know on all these players. Who's going to bounce back? Who's going to fall back? Is there guys that I mentioned that you think are going to fall back even further? Ji'Yair Brown and potentially guys like Jordan Elliott or Gross Matos, are they going to fall back even further? Or is it like I'm saying, a little bounce back? We'd love a big bounce back, but maybe just a little one from what we got last year. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really curious what you have to say. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. And this episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.